Hello you hockey-playing apologists and welcome aboard HMCS Haida. Haida? Yeah, I'm going to go with Haida. HMCS Haida, the ceremonial flagship of the Royal Canadian Navy, and possibly, although I'm not certain yet, my new favourite Tier 7 destroyer in World of Warships. It really is something special. And I should probably explain exactly why, because Haida... I'm going to interchange those two, sorry. Haida is not a ship for everyone, and she does have an extremely high skill level required to be able to do very well in her. And a lot of this comes down to the way that Haida wants to play. You can see it has hydroacoustic there. That's a weird hydro. It lasts for 3 minutes by default. Has, I think it's 3.2... ship detection and 2.1 torpedo. So it's a pretty short range hydro, and it really facilitates a lot of the moving around in your smoke screen that you're going to be doing, because Haida has a cooling smoke screen, kind of like you see on the Perf. And that's a really interesting consumable for a destroyer to get a hold of. I never played around with it back on the Perf. I have never played the Perf, but it's always something I've wanted to mess around with, and so when I saw Haida, I was very excited to give it a go. It's really the first ship with it that actively interested me. You can see another Haida over there. And of course, look at the beautiful camo too. Looking at all that Canada plastered over the ship is fantastic. Now all we need is the HMS Hood to get a British camo, kind of like this one, and I'd be all over it. But more importantly, onto the Haida, not the Hood. Her smokescreen's a crawling smokescreen, which is interesting, and it gives you some unique possibilities of moving around the cap. And it does limit the enemy destroyer's ability to fire torpedoes at you into your smoke, because your smoke is moving. Couple that with Haida's long duration hydroacoustic, and you're pretty much impossible to torpedo as long as that's running, which it will probably be doing. Now you see no one contested the B cap. This is actually because the enemy Haida went to C, and the other two destroyers, the Janwei and the Gaida, are both going to A. You can actually see the Gaida on the map there. He's just finished capping it. But Haida has a high skill cap, and the reason I say this is because she wants to be on the absolute front of the front lines. Haida is a close-range knife fighter that destroys enemy destroyers and messes up battleships within 10 kilometers. Her guns are a bit floaty, so take that with a grain of salt. She can be very difficult to hit targets with at range. But if you're used to, floaty guns, if you play a lot of American destroyers, it won't take you too long to get used to Haida's floaty guns. And I'm going to fire some torpedoes there in case the Gaida comes around the corner. Not going to be talking very much about the actual game. It's interesting in a couple areas, but for the most part it's quite banal. I just wanted to get this game recorded quickly so I could take a look at the Haida and talk about it. And it's a very famous ship. It's got a lot of history. It was once called the most fightingest ship in the Royal Canadian Navy, and it's bloody true. The Haida sank more tonnage than any other ship in the Canadian Navy in service at the time. This is quite possibly the most storied and famous Canadian ship ever built. It's one of the Canadian Tribal class destroyers, actually, which is basically a modification of the Tribal class that was ordered specifically by Canada for the different conditions that the Canadians faced around their shores compared to what the British faced in what are, generally speaking, more temperate waters. I'm not sure if temperate was the right word there, but we're going to go with it anyway. And you'll see in this gunfight with the Janwei that Haida's guns, even at close range, can be very, very floaty, and I do miss quite a few shots on it. But when they hit, the HE shells on Haida hit like a freight train. They do so much damage, it's beautiful. Watch this salvo. Yep. That was... It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. There you go, 1700. And they have a really nice reload as well, so you've always got a salvo in the air. It's fantastic for knife fighting like this. Haida also has amazing concealment. 5.7 kilometers is brilliant for a Tier 7. You will absolutely curb stomp the Americans, the Germans, the Russians. The only ones who come close to you are, of course, the Japanese. Actually, I think they do better than you. I'm not sure. It's been a long while since I played Akatsuki or Shiratsuyu. But here's the cooling smoke generator being showed off here, and it's quite handy. I love it. Personally, it's one of my favourite things that I've ever got to play around with on a destroyer. It's not particularly useful for, helping teammates out. They find it difficult to sit in the smoke screen because they have to be moving with you. And if you're not on comms, it can be very difficult to organise that type of teamwork. So keep that in mind if you're the type of player who likes to provide smoke screens for teammates, although you can see a couple ships making use of it here. And we're actually going to get 2 torpedoes into that Bayern and detonate him. Sorry, Koenig, and detonate him. And that's one of the few torpedo kills you'll get in the Haida. Its torpedoes are a bit iffy. The torpedoes themselves have an 8-kilometer range and 62 knot speed, which is pretty good. But you've only got 4 of them. They do have a good reload time, and you can be somewhat aggressive with them. But you just have to keep in mind that the firing arcs are a little bit weird because of that rear smokestack, and the actual torpedoes themselves, again, there are only 4 of them, so you're not going to get too many devastating strikes unless you detonate a target like I did to that unfortunate Koenig, who might well have died to those torpedoes anyway. But we're going to engage in a second gunfight with a Guider here. Now, this is only at 6 kilometers, and you can see how floaty the guns are. You really want to be getting in close with Haida, which is also facilitated by that really long-lasting hydro. Even though it has short range, the hydro is excellent for helping you dodge torpedoes in those knife fights that Haida loves to be engaged in. This is my personal favourite firing range for Haida against destroyers, 4 or so kilometers. It really enables the guns to get there in a good time and for you to do as much damage as possible, and I would recommend bringing the Haida directly into caps to try and contest, because really there's no other tier 7 that can do it quite like you. Now, we are looking at a Dunkirk, a Cesare, a Nuremberg, and I believe a New Orleans coming around this corner now. Some of them are a little bit farther back, but I'm going to fire on the Dunkirk and see if we can set him on fire. You can do this with Haida. She does have a pretty nice fire chance. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's pretty good. I'm actually launching these torpedoes at the Cesare, by the way, not the Dunkirk. It's a bug in the replay that made it look like I was aiming at it. And a couple of them are going to hit the island because I'm a terrible shot with torpedoes, apparently. But the Cesare spoiler is going to dodge those. And you won't get a lot of torpedo hits with Haida due to the limited number of torpedoes. Play it like the kid, you know, focus on that gun build, all into that gun build. And Haida, she's facilitated in that by different methods than the kid. The kid is facilitated in being a gun destroyer by its heal party that allows it to tank that much more damage. Haida is facilitated as a close-range gun destroyer because of her hydroacoustic that lets her dodge torpedoes and spot if you're if a destroyer is, say, I don't know, 2.8 kilometers. It's a limited amount of range that you can be in your smoke screen and spot with the hydro from without you being spotted when you fire. But it can be useful in certain situations, but you know, it's very situational, don't rely on it. The hydroacoustic is more there to avoid torpedoes because Haida is a bit big. She's not got a bad turning circle, but she's a bit of a thick girl, and so a lot of the time you are going to struggle dodging those torpedoes reliably. But we're using the crawling smokescreen generator on a corner here, which is actually my favourite place to use it, because I can use the smoke to crawl behind the corner if the Dunkirk gets too close to me. And he's just used damage control, so I'm going to point out to the team, use DC. Very important that you let the team know this. You will have seen me doing it in the Z52 video. I might have done it in the Prinz Eugen video if I actually had that situation. I don't remember. But you will see me doing this a lot, and it's extremely important that you do, because it allows your team to focus fire targets and take them out kind of like that. That was a detonation, by the way, from the Fuso. Quite funny, I thought. And you'll see the Nuremberg is getting very, very close to me now. This is when I'm starting to be concerned, because Nuremberg has German hydroacoustic. Not too great at tier 6, but enough that he can be a very big threat, and the guns are very rapid firing. So you'll see that I use the crawling smokescreen to great effect here to hide myself behind the corner while I ask the team to focus fire on the Nuremberg. And this team, to their credit, have been excellent for focus firing my targets and, you know, keeping me alive in situations which are really very risky for me. And speaking of good situations as well, Haida can really, really perform if you know what you're doing. Just the last game I played in her, quite a while after this particular match, although with the same commander build, I scored a solo warrior and 6 kills in the Haida. And that was by, well, I got the solo warrior by killing a Bajoni with my guns in the last seconds of the game to flip the score over and ensure that we won, which I really wouldn't have felt confident doing in many more destroyers than Haida because of the high damage per shot of the guns. And really the high DPS of the ship in general. It's actually, I would say, it probably has a higher DPS than the Mayhan, which is obviously one of 2 equivalent American tier destroyers, and it probably has a higher DPS than the Sims as well. Now you see me backing around this corner. This is one of the few instances where you can really hurt a ship with the torpedoes if they're being stupid, like that Cesare. He's reversing, and I have completely undetected launched all my torpedoes along the marker in a single spread. All it would take is a small change of speed or direction. All of them will miss. But that is a tier 5 battleship, a tier 5 premium battleship no less. So what do you think he's going to do? We're watching the torpedoes. You'll see it in chat in a second exactly how certain I am. There it is. 3, 2, 1. All 4 of them hit. All 4 torpedoes will hit the Cesare. They won't kill him, which is a problem the Haida has because its torpedoes are not numerous. You only have the 4, obviously, so devastating strikes are kind of hard to come by. But the Fuso is going to finish him off with some long-range gunnery. And you can see the enemy team having a bit of laugh with me there in chat. I love the banter with the enemy team when things go well. I really like having that. It's a certain level of friendliness I feel like you don't get a lot in online games, and it's always fantastic to see. But this is the Haida. Risky. You will suffer a lot in Haida when you make the wrong move and you push too aggressively and you fuck up. It's almost always lethal. But if you balance that aggression properly and you play Haida around those cap circles the way she wants to be played, this is the best destroyer at tier 7. You need to be extremely good for her to be the best destroyer for tier 7 for you, but if you are extremely good, that is exactly what the Haida is capable of being. Exactly. Okay, so that was that game in HMCS Haida. It's 542,362 credits, 11,025 XP, although you do have to bear in mind I'm using the Haida XP boost mission that you get with the ship, so that's not the standard XP that I'll get when that mission is no longer active. 552 free XP, devastating strike, and of course high caliber. 6 torpedo hits is more than you average in Haida. We also got a base cap and 3 ships destroyed for 123,283 damage. That's one of the pretty high damage games that you actually get in Haida. You don't do that much, mainly because Haida is specialised as a destroyer hunter-killer, and obviously destroyers don't have that much health pool. But I would say overall that I'm going to recommend this ship, with a caveat that you need to be extremely good at destroyers. If you're not, Haida will disappoint you, and I really don't want to say that because I know how much some people were looking forward to this ship. But if you're not a particularly good destroyer player, it's not for you. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. It's going to require too much from you if you're not already extremely confident in destroyers. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this little premium review. After the Prinz Eugen and Otago videos, I did decide I'm probably going to try and focus more on some premium ships that are available and really showing people what I think is worth money and what I think you should probably steer clear of. And Haida is a bit of an interesting one for me to cover because of the high skill requirement to play her and a few of the things that are kind of quirky about it and make it very, very unique when it comes to destroyers in the game at the moment. So I'll see you in the next review, which will probably be another premium ship, maybe Cesare.